What do people need to stop romanticizing? Celebrities/being famous. To piggyback off this comment, I want to add really terrible famous people. There's an entire subculture of motivational self-help genre on YouTube that glorifies Jordan Belfort and everything related to the Wolf of Wall Street movie. Imagine taking life and money advice from a con man and convicted criminal. Sleep deprivation/overworking yourself. I was randomly awake for 3 days once. Not fun at all, but great fun to talk about. And a very educational personal experience on what happens if you stay awake too long. All the worst happenings make all the best stories. What did happen to you when staying awake that long? Toxic relationships. Yeah, thank you. Lana Del Rey lol. But no. Seriously. I fell into that. I can rescue this almost 40-year-old unemployed alcoholic with serious mental health issues when I was 19 and boy, it was not pretty. Edit, lol guys, I am not blaming Lana for my abusive relationship. Her music was not out yet when it happened. I was just making an ironic joke and worded it poorly. Good luck to y'all though. It is really sad to see so many people had to go through that. I hope you guys found peace and life is treating you well. Cheers. Former colleague of mine, massive LDR fan, was in a relationship like that, but about 8 to 10 years added to the ages. She would tell us about the nasty things he did, show us these horrible messages he sent, and generally tell us what a cunt he was. He used to work in the same building, so many of us knew him. Next day, she'd tell me to watch this video of him playing guitar. He's really good. And you like guitars? Yeah, but I don't like abusive assholes. I don't care how good he is on the guitar. Still with him, he's changed. Apparently. Drug lords. Yeah, actually all violent psychopathic people. Drug lords, serial killers, Bonnie and Clyde. Girls who definitely murdered people but are kind of pretty, so the media does their best to show both sides. Edit, based on replies. Throwing in mob bosses, hitmen, and school shooters. Edit to change psychotic to psychopathic as I mix the two terms up. They are different, and the difference matters. Abusive relationships, like stalking your love interest/partner, drama all the time, bad communication and misunderstandings, trying to invoke jealousy, obsessiveness. It's not romantic, it's creepy. I'm confused. You just described the plot of several rom-coms. Rom-coms have so many toxic situations that they try to romanticize. And I say that as a huge lover of rom-coms. But very obsessive traits and stalking the partner is an instant quit the series for me. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is hilarious because of this. The whole thing is mocking this trope. She quits her super successful job as an attorney to move across the country and go stalk some guy she kissed at summer camp as a kid. It's a really wacky show. They break out into song all the time and they make it comedic. Like, oh, it looks like Josh is gonna be at the club on Friday. Let's dress up like plants so we can spy on him. Not a real storyline, but just that's the kind of thing they do. The stuff they do from Shakespeare to modern sitcoms. And then by the end it becomes deathly serious. She turns out to have BPD and attempts suicide. It's super interesting because it starts off as another lighthearted rom-com but ultimately makes a statement about how messed up this whole concept is. Jealousy. You know what's hot? Trust. The mafia. I had an absolute fascination with the Italian mob and mobsters for a very long time. Then I watched something on PBS about the first Sicilians to come to New York. They would shake down Italian people, kidnap their kids for ransom and sometimes kill them. Spell broken. It's kind of like that scene from Goodfellas when Spider gets shot in the foot. The movie is pretty much a feel-good movie where you're rooting for the mob until they do something so horrific and you understand the psychopathy and remorseless attitude they have. Serial killers, and putting details of what they did all over the media, giving them additional fame. A comic I can't recall the name of said, I know more about Ted Bundy than I know about my family. Attractive people doing harmful things? People shouldn't get a pass to do toxic and rude things simply because they're attractive. Why do I see serial killers and toxic partners get romanticized simply because they're hot? Why does that make their horrible actions somehow badass and charismatic? Back when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, one of my friends on FB started posting a bunch of pictures of one of the bombers, talking about how she would have dreams about him and how obsessed she was with him. I straight up blocked her after the second or third time because I couldn't get over how messed up that was. Dude killed and maimed multiple people. His objective attractiveness became absolutely null at that point. A girl in my high school did that with the Columbine shooters. She would post their pictures and videos, talking about how hot they are and would sorta joke about wanting to do something similar. She got expelled for it. My roommate frequently works late, and while I sympathized with her at first, I soon discovered she seemed to enjoy the drama of being exhausted, disliking her employer, believing the office needs her, and so on. She's been staying late lately, until midnight or later, and then returning to work by 7 a.m. The entire workplace is in a rush to reach a deadline, but she was furious the other night when a coworker refused to stay past 7 p.m. The coworker was a woman who had recently given birth to a child, was exhausted, and hadn't seen her child in a long time. Her roommate had no sympathy for her and was enraged that her coworker had departed so early. What are you talking about, roommate? However, She earns a six-figure salary, so perhaps the money is worth it to her. People dropping all their own goals and interests for someone else. Yes, the plot of standard rom-com. OCD. It's not quirky or funny when I'm late for work because I had to back upstairs to check that the gas stove is off for the 15th time because I can't stop envisioning the whole building blowing up. I literally stand frozen to the spot trying to fight the urge to go back when I know I checked, but the intrusive thoughts are too upset to deal with. OCD isn't cute and quirky and being organized. For me, it's believing that people will die if I don't check again. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind internet strangers. I hope you didn't spend monies on it. You all deserve good things in life. Edit 2. So many people are commenting, but it's hard to keep up. I'm sorry if I don't reply. Everyone is individual and no two experiences are exactly the same. Please don't let my comment panic you if you think you have OCD. Talking to something who can help is the best way forward. Eating disorders. As someone who has been trying to recover from one for the past 10 years, the romanticization and stereotypes of this mental illness really deters those suffering from them from recovering and encourages the idea you're not sick enough to get help or that only two of them exist/deserve help. Pro-ana shit really bugs me. It was hell being married to someone with anorexia and exercise bulimia for 10 years, and then I see people glorifying that life and I just want to scream. That shit destroyed my life. Being a partner to someone with an eating disorder is really tough, and I didn't cope very well. Even if you have your own psychological shit together, which I didn't, it can be impossible to cope. And this is just me talking about it from the outside. I know she had it worse because part of the hell was watching her own self-hatred eat at her. It was holding her as she cried in bed for an entire week straight because her mom told her she had love handles the first day of our vacation when she was just starting to feel okay with herself at an okay weight. Watching as she ran for 2 hours every day, rain, snow, sleet, hail, or 100 degrees weather when her knee was bad because she couldn't get the compulsion out of her head. So yeah, fuck anyone that glorifies eating disorders. Having followers said it. Please stop following me, lol. There is a very big taboo problem in America today that society isn't ready to deal with, which is parents exploiting the shit out of their kids on social media. And sometimes, the reasons that these kids are getting followers is pretty dark. Oh yeah. My uncle and his friends used to run a fishing channel on YouTube. They noticed their videos with children always had like double, sometimes triple the numbers of the videos that didn't have children. It was mildly disturbing. Overworking. My coworkers tend to make it a competition to see who can make the most sacrifices for their career. Who puts in the most overtime hours? Who does things off the clock for work more? Etc. It's bullshit. I have a life and a family I want to prioritize. The only reward the best coal shoveler gets is a bigger shovel. Hustle culture. I don't understand why it's cool to always be busy and dedicating all your waking hours to making money. When do you get to enjoy your time if you are always stressed out? Back in my Facebook days, I had a friend who was in real estate that would brag about hustling even while vacation. Her posts consisted of her laptop by the beach resort. War. Only the dead have seen the end of war. From Santayana, or Plato, depending on your sources. Thanks Rome. Total War. Depression. Edit. Whoa. Didn't know this would blow up. My first ever blown up comment and the first to receive awards. Thank you, kind strangers. Agreed. Depression isn't writing poetry and being mysterious. It can be not leaving your house for weeks, not showering, forgetting to eat or overeating. Emo. Worst of all is the distance you create between you and others. It's hard to back from a bad episode. Edit. I really don't want this to sound like I am gatekeeping. We all have variations of how depression impacts us and how we cope. My point is that depression isn't what the media portrays. Also, I have never felt more understood reading all of your replies. Thank you for sharing. When I'm in an episode and pull away from others, I imagine it's like the bridge that lifts to let boats through. Sometimes the boats are small and when they pass it doesn't take long for the road to be passable again to the other side. But sometimes the boats are so big and long and the bridge is out for such a long time that the traffic starts to turn around. The cars might come back, or they might have found a better bridge. France, don't get me wrong, it is a stupidly beautiful place. In parts, but movies and TV have made people believe it is a magical fairy tale place full of romantic men waiting to sweep women off their feet and overly sexual women just waiting for a man to come along who can satisfy her appetites. The reality is none of those things. And from a fairly extensive amount of travel that I have done, I'd argue that there are far more beautiful countries in the world, broadly, than France. Again, there is absolutely beauty in France, but nothing to the tune of its romanticized nature. As a French person, I wholeheartedly agree. Being in toxic relationships reminds me of the fandom of Killing Stalking. The story is about abuse, its effects, terror, and a don't do this at home kind of thing. It is not a love story, it is not a romantic story. Such things shouldn't be romanticized. Poverty. You read articles like Hero Mom works 3 jobs to pay for the treatment for his sick son. That's not right. That shouldn't happen. It's so people can half-ass talk about struggles. It's like when people glorified nurses in 2020 and nurses were like cool. But you could pay us more and fix the working conditions and long hours. Poverty. Special needs and disabilities in kids. My son has special needs, and the way people romanticize and make it sound like he's so lucky to have it and what a time to be alive and all that shit pisses me off so much. He's a great kid. I make damn sure he's got a great quality of life, but he's never going to have a normal life, and there's nothing cute, quirky or romanticizable about that. I would gladly trade any of those schmucks for a functioning body and a chance at normalcy. Lol, watch how quickly they'd say, oh well, not that lucky. The gangsta lifestyle and all that it entails. I grew up in Oakland and have witnessed far too many of the people I grew with get caught up in the game. Roughly half of the guys from my former neighborhood are either serving life sentences or were killed. I grew up in the 80s, but it's even worse now. Drugs. I've been there. I've done them. My ex lost his life because of them. I'm still fixing mine, and it's been years. Yeah, they're fun at first and they might make you feel great, but after you do them so long, you forget who you were before them, and trying to find yourself again after so long of using them is a fucking nightmare. I don't wish that path on anyone. I don't wish the pain of losing a child too soon like what I watched my ex's family go through. On any family. He was 26 years old. Do yourself and your family a favor and get clean. It might be rough, but it is worth it. Edit. For those curious, it was heroin/fentanyl. I've done pretty much everything under the sun, and after what I went through I don't care to do anything now. If you've found something you enjoy and you can do it safely, great, but please save me the pep talk. I have lost friends and literally a partner to an overdose. Me abstaining from everything is how I am able to remain sober. Toxic relationships and infidelity, alcohol abuse or heavy drinking. My family used to think it was a badge of honor that we had to start shopping for vacation drinks months in advance to make sure there was enough. Most of the packing for our week at the beach was around boxes and boxes of liquor and champagne and wine. As teenagers we got liquor store catalogs at Christmas and were allowed 2 bottles each, my mother being able to finish off a box of wine or 3 bottles, my father drinking at least 12 beers a night and then being able to go to work the next day. Every single day. Functional alcoholism given a pass because no one's lives were spiraling out of control and no one was physically abusive. That type of drinking was my norm. Road drinks are normal. 15 plus M2 bottles of wine and the recycling each week was normal. Being able to buy a new video game each week because we recycled enough beer cans to get the money was normal. As adults, pint glasses of straight liquor was normal. Drinking games at every family function, at least bi-weekly, was normal. Blackout drinking was normal, so long as you could go to work the next day, didn't drive, and weren't picking fights with anyone. It was all normal. Then, in our late 30s my sibling got a stomach bug and couldn't keep anything down. They didn't have a drink for 36 hours, and got the DTs, hallucinations, shaking, vomiting, anger, aggression, in the hospital with their partner calling everyone because our sibling is probably going to die in a few hours. Thankfully they pulled through and have stopped drinking. None of that shit is normal anymore, and we're lucky no one actually died or has lasting organ damage. My bully is my lover. Like, why would you beat up your crush? Unless you're a masochist, I don't see anyone falling in love. Stockholm Syndrome. Mental illness is a serious condition. Having one does not make you cool, unique, or insightful. It's a disaster.